Good morning, happy people. We are jumping right back in with yet another ancient cave run. We're going with our regular party for the main characters. We've got Dakar, who is the best character in the game and hits like a ton of bricks. Guy, who is like Dakar's little brother, who isn't quite as good but thinks he is. Artie, who is really fast, and that's really all we care about. And Maxim, because we have to. We're gonna try something a little different here. We're actually gonna go with Blaze. Bring a puppy along. Blaze is the fire element capsule monster. From my little bit of research, he isn't as reliable as Sully, but he's not bad. That's basically what it sounded like. Most of them said Darby or Sully. Flash is only good at the beginning because he can heal you. Basically, from what I've seen, Blaze is a little bit more offensively oriented, which means that he's more likely to die and he's more likely to run away. He's not super fast, but he's not bad, and he actually, in his later forms, does get some instant death effects, which will be very helpful in case we don't get another deadly rod. I'm a little salty that my last run probably would have gone much better if I'd gotten an item that I normally get 3 or 4 of in an average run. One of the weird things with Blaze, just to mention it, is he apparently does get significantly more powerful if we can get him up to his M class. All the other ones that we've tried, we've gotten up to the 3rd or 4th tier. There is a tier above that once you stop feeding them, and it requires you to get a special item, an elemental fruit. I believe in the last run I actually picked up like a dark fruit and a charm fruit in various different spots. So specifically, what we need to do is get the charm fruit, which is the water elemental fruit, and there's a few enemies that drop it, in addition to it being potentially accessible via chest. So, when we get up to the level where these enemies potentially drop it, we're gonna go and try and kill them repeatedly until we get it, or we run out of enemies. To re-emphasize, for those who aren't familiar, this is Lufia Ancient Cave. It's a 100 floor randomly generated dungeon. You start at level 1 with no equipment, and you end with 100 floors later with a boss that has 10,000 hit points that you have 3 rounds to kill. We're gonna be basically not fighting everything. We're doing some grinding early here. I feel like that's worked out better for the consistency of the runs, because I don't die horribly to sand snakes. I had a bad experience. Watch a couple of the earlier runs. Basically, it means we're a lot less likely to die until we get to the later sections of the game. I'd like to be able to reliably get to at least floor 60 on these. Because that's where this stuff really starts killing you. Before that, I feel like it's somewhat avoidable, and it's even more avoidable if we actually take time to level early on. That being said, I'm probably even going a little bit further than I need to right now, but whatever. Having too much leveling is not going to be a bad thing for most of this. It makes cores a little less efficient, but you're still getting the same experience overall. Okay. So yeah, basically the goal for this game is to get down to the bottom floor. Once you get to the bottom floor, there, since you only have 3 rounds, you need specific items that make your party as efficient at killing that boss as possible. So that's really what we're looking for. Also worth noting, the enemies on the overworld move in specific patterns. If you are dumb and don't pay attention to the patterns, you will get attacked from the side or the back. If you're good and can manipulate the enemies, you can move behind them and stop them from getting in behind you, like that spider just did. The items in this dungeon are randomly generated, but there are kind of tiers to them. Basically, there's a pool of items that starts out being accessible. And as you go deeper into the cave, more and more and more items get added to that same pool. So, you notice we just got the Firebird spell. The Firebird spell is actually a 3rd tier spell. It's one of the most powerful spells in the game. All the spells start out in the pool. You can get the best spells in the game right away. For the most part, that's just kinda... it's just spells. Most other items get added to the pool at a somewhat appropriate power level. Our first thing we're going to be looking for is a deadly rod. I mentioned it earlier because I did not get one for the entirety of my last run, and it was really annoying because deadly rods are kind of important. We can start getting them on, I believe, floor 4 or 5. So once we get to floor 5, we can start looking for a deadly rod. This is probably not the best idea. We're gonna run away and actually equip items. Because I just realized we hadn't done that yet. And by equip items, I mean we're gonna give Artie apparently a bunch of stuff right off the bat. And we're gonna give maximum power brace, and we're gonna give and Dakar doesn't need anything because he is a man monster who is going to beat everything to death with his fists. Okay. Just as another random note, it looks like our guys have really low hit points. That's because as you level up, you don't actually gain hit points. They just add to your maximum. So, right now we actually have about the same hit points we did starting out, even though our maximum pool is higher. We're okay with fighting these eagles because they're not super scary. Well, more than anything else at this level, I guess, and because they can drop eagle bracks, which aren't super exciting, but I want one. So that's kind of how we're doing this. Brone helmet, because translation in this game was mediocre. The main reason we want Eagle Rock is just because it's I believe it should be a attack and speed boost. I don't even really know if we're gonna get one, but like I said, we're kind of trying to grind a little bit more early on and as we go than we have in the past, and we did that on the last run. I felt like it worked really well up until the point where, you know, we died horribly. But we died horribly against enemies that you're supposed to die horribly to. We really just got stuck between a rock and a hard place. So healing tiles. There are random tiles that can heal you. It's a thing. in this case, we're really glad that we got it because it saves us from having to sit there and heal. We don't have any healing spells yet. Those would be really nice. Basically the pieces that you're looking for overall for a good run, since I mentioned healing spells. Healing spells. Healing spells are important. You need, ideally, a healing spell and a resurrection spell, of some kind. The poison spell is really handy, because it lets you heal poison. Again, all the items are random, except for you start with 10 potions. 10 regular potions. Those don't last very long. Having efficient ways to heal yourself is really important, and to get rid of the poison status effect, because it can get really annoying and eventually kill you if you don't have a way to take care of it. The Deadly Rod I mentioned, ideally. Deadly Sword is also acceptable, but Deadly Rod's really the best. It is a cursed item, which means you can't unequip it, but it instantly kills most enemies. It has like a 90% success rate or something ridiculous like that. It's really good. By the way, the reason I'm going back and killing enemies right now is because we have a healing tile, which means that we get to heal ourselves for free after we're done fighting all of these things. So yeah, healing spell. Other spells aren't super important for the most part. We'll occasionally use a holy element spell or a fire element spell against enemies that are really weak to it, just because, especially if we get the Deadly Rod for Artie, because the Deadly Rod can't kill undead enemies. Because they're already dead. So yeah, we're basically hoping for those two things right off the bat. The main spells we need are either Champion or Strong, or both. And then ideally Valor, which resurrects and heals. And like I said, Poison. The other one offhand that I could think of is Absorb, which lets you steal MP from enemies, which basically means that you don't have to, again, we're trying to find ways to not rely on items that might drop or might not drop, like antidotes or MP restore. So, yeah. Let's see, what's the other spells? Trick, I guess, is the other one. Trick is useful against the last boss because it gives you a boost to attack power. You can cast on your whole party, and then after you do your... Ideally, you're going to be doing percentage-based attacks first, and then finishing the boss off after you've buffed. So yeah, that's basically what we're looking for magic. For our actual, one of the things during the run itself that we're looking for is equipment that boosts agility, like the jet helm that I equipped earlier. The jet helm boosts agility, which when we give it to Artie, who already has really high agility, means that he gets to go first. That's very important throughout the run, especially when we get deeper into the dungeon, because ideally he'll be able to have a healing spell and a deadly weapon, which means that he can either kill an enemy before it gets to attack, or heal the party before the enemy gets to a second turn. Later in the game, when we get to the boss, we actually still want those speed up items, the agility boosting items, because it helps us to switch up our turn order. We want to be having whoever has a percentage based attack go first, because those attacks do damage based on the current hit points. It's kind of like a demi spell in Final Fantasy that most people never use, but against this specific type of boss, it's really useful. 10,000 hit points. If you have an attack that can do half of that, that's 5,000 damage in one shot. That's the most efficient way to do it, and if you can order it in a way where that happens, all the other attacks that get done are going to do the same amount of damage regardless. So, being able to give somebody really slow, like Dakar, really a chance to go before some of the other characters can actually be a good benefit. I mentioned the percentage-based attacks a couple times. That's one of the other main items we're looking for. When we get down to floor 15, we'll start getting the Dakar Blade. Floor 50 has the Old Sword, and floor 60 has the Myth Blade. Those are generally the best ones, along with the aforementioned Deadly Rod, which also is useful. The main reason we want it is because it's both useful for the run and against the last boss. The other items we're looking for are just powerful weapons, straight up. Early game, it's obviously just useful for killing things. Specifically for the boss, we want items that let us either take multiple attacks, like the Gady's Blade, or items that let us do multipliers. For example, there are some items that have IP attacks that let you do up to 3 times damage for one attack. So if you can buff one of your guys using something like the trick spell I mentioned earlier, after you do that big percentage damage with one of the weapons, then you follow it up by attacking with one of those 3 times attack weapons to do a lot of, basically to help clear the rest of the damage that you need done. Everything else we get, and as we get more powerful stuff, it goes to feeding our capsule monster. Capsule monsters have 5 forms. The first 4 you attain by feeding them basically all of your gear, all the leftovers. Their final form is unlocked by feeding them a fruit that is the opposite of their element. I've never quite understood that. In this case, Blaze is going to need a charm fruit, which is a water element. Capsule monsters are kind of they're like a pet. They're the 5th party member. You don't control them. They're a little bit weaker than the rest of the party members generally, but they can be very useful when they do what you want, when you want them to, which is very rare. Basically, you get one, we may as well make the most of it. Usually we use Darby, which is the dark element one, because he gets very high damage attacks and instant death effects, which are useful during the rest of the run, but not necessarily for the boss. Most of the time we've been using Sully, who is the earth element guy. He's kind of the most consistent. He's basically, as you get higher level, he's basically a second copy of Guy. Very high damage, sturdy and reliable, but not quite as good as Dakar. The other one we've used on one of these runs is Flash, which is the light element, who gets healing magic, which can be really useful, but is not reliable because you don't control it, and is not another damage source. So even though that run we got to the boss, Flash just didn't contribute, or or didn't contribute enough. So the ones that do damage are more useful for the boss. And ultimately that is our goal. You know, you can get down all the way to the bottom, and I mean that's still an accomplishment, but being able to get to the bottom and kill the jelly is not easy. Even if some of the speedrunners make it look really easy, but you know, there's a lot of random elements to this game, and the people who are doing it with that amount of skill know way more about this game than you might expect. They know the elemental weaknesses of every single monster, they know how they move, they know which floors they're going to show up on, so they can basically optimize their choices for every single encounter they get. Okay. Unfortunately, we've gotten no deadlies yet, nothing too terribly exciting, no healing spell. I mean, we're not that deep in the cave, but it would have been nice to get something by now. I mean, I suppose the jet helm is neat as an early drop. There's I can't remember exactly what it is, but I remember hearing a bug, basically, about a bug that basically you don't get certain like helmets and shields and stuff don't really drop after the first 10 floors. So, except like blue chest items and stuff. So, yeah, getting a helmet when we can that's not a bad helmet is good. That was probably kind of inane sounding, now that I think about it. Am I just... yeah, there's the stairs. I'm completely missing it. If you have not watched one of my runs before, I have a terrible sense of direction, and will very likely wander around in circles, looking for the stairs multiple times. This enemy's not really necessary to fight, but I got a back attack, so I went for it. Some enemy sprites, basically if an enemy sprite has the ability to rotate, you can potentially get in from the side or behind it, and that will give you an automatic free round, basically. If the sprite doesn't rotate, then they will not be getting a back attack on you. Or you will not be getting a back attack on them. I believe they can still get a back attack on you. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't remember offhand. I think they can. So yeah, normally we would not be this high level until after we fight cores, which are these enemies. Cores are kind of like metal slimes or cactuars. They run away. They're very they drop a lot of experience for you. So ideally that's we'll kill at least a few. They're going to show up for the next 2 floors here, between 11 and 13, and we will hopefully get a couple kills. I'm not really relying on it, I guess. at this point, but we're actually already over the level I would normally be trying to get to. In a faster run, you don't stop and fight all the enemies. You basically just run past everything to get down to the cores. And that's because the cores, one fight with those red cores that we missed there would have been enough to get us basically all the way up to level 8, which is about where we're at. So it's way more time efficient to just skip past everything and get to the cores. But why not both? I mean, really. I'm gonna be really upset if we end up missing this kill, because I could have used an attack. Okay, good. They have very good physical defense, and they have very good evasion, so physical attacks tend to miss. Normally you do a magic attack, but I just kind of got a little ahead of myself. Luckily, Guy got a critical attack. So yeah, these floors, since they have the cores, we're gonna go through and explore pretty thoroughly, just to make sure we don't miss them. I think we forgot to equip the new item I just got, which is too bad, because it would have been really useful there. There we go. You can see there we got in first on these enemies, even though it was a side attack, like it was from our side to their back. If it's not your front to their back, it doesn't always succeed. If you connect in from the front to their side, or your side to their back, or even I think from the side to side, there's a chance you can get a sneak attack. The real trick there is that if it's your side and not their back, there's a chance you'll get a sneak attack, or they'll get a sneak attack against you too. So you have to kind of be careful. Okay, no more cores, but we're level 11, so we should be okay. Just going through and opening all the things. Oh! That last floor I must have just been on for so long that I wasn't thinking about it. Okay, let's see if we can get this. Even if 1 or 2 stays, we're going to get a lot of experience out of it at this point. It's better than nothing. So we're trying to be efficient with our healing items. You know, use potions if we just need to heal a little bit. Don't feel the need to heal all the way up to max, especially at these early floors, and save the really powerful ones for later. Basically, if we're not actually going to fully heal if we're not going to be able to use all of the healing it grants, then there's no point. So like that high potion on Guy I used because it's a mid-tier healing item. He was down enough that I knew that he would not be full after that potion. But it would take most of my regular potions to heal him back up at this point. Another Sir Custom. So that sword is named after a guitar. It's not clear to me why. It doesn't show up in the real game, it's only in the dungeon here. I'm wondering if it was... It's either like some kind of weird Easter egg or... Yeah, I think that's probably about it. It's some kind of weird Easter egg, or possibly a test thing that didn't get removed. Yeah, that's Sir Custom 11. So yeah, looks like I think Dakar has one right now, which means he's possibly technically whacking people over the head with a guitar, which seems like an appropriate thing for Dakar to do. I mean, he's basically... He spent the first several floors just beating people with his fists because he's Dakar, and doing more damage than most of the rest of the party despite that. Okay, so these are orcs and regal goblins. They're not really powerful. They don't drop anything. We just want experience, and we saw an opportunity for a back attack. Hooray, potions. Floor 15. This is the first floor where the Dakar Blade starts showing up. Dakar Blade is one of those percentage-based weapons, and it's also the main reason that Dakar is the best character for this cave. Besides the fact that he hits really, really hard and has tons of hit points, and. Okay, we're going to take a moment now to feed our capsule monster, because we just picked up a Berserk Blade. Berserk Blades are powerful, cursed weapons that start showing up early in the game, and they're very easy to accidentally equip, because they show up early in the game. So, basically we're going to go through here. We're going to start out by feeding them the weakest items we have accessible. Because capsule monsters are apparently very picky. And if you feed them good items, they will turn around and start refusing your low items. Like that. The reason we're going through and doing this right now is because we really want to get rid of the Berserk Blade. We're also feeding him lower end items here, if you feed under, there's a chance that he will go back to wanting lower end stuff. Or be at least accepting of lower end stuff. So we're kind of feeding him all of our junk items. We only got halfway up the first one, but more importantly, we got rid of the Berserk Sword so we don't accidentally equip it. Like I said, Berserk Blade is cursed, which means you can't equip it. It has very high attack power, which is nice, but it basically gives a permanent poison effect, I believe, while it's equipped. So you're losing hit points every turn. Obviously, especially right now when we don't even have a healing spell, that's not good. The big thing is, however, that you can't remove it without a Curse Lifter item. And right now, so if we happened to not get a Curse Lifter item for the rest of the game, even though we'd have this really awesome weapon for the first part of the run, when we get to the late game, we might be stuck with it. So we might find something better. Skeletons were being very aggressive. Hopefully either Guy or Descartes will finish off the one Maxim did. Nope. If you notice me sliding my attacks over to one of the specific enemies, usually it's because they're the one in the front row. It's only a few pixels difference on the screen, but you can kind of see the stagger between the two rows of enemies. Front row enemies deal and take more damage, so we basically want to make sure that our so like you can see there, those two mushrooms in the middle are in the front row, the two in the other ones are in the back row, and they're gonna take and receive less damage from those random hits from Guy and Descartes because they're in the back row. If the enemy that is being attacked, or that is assigned to be attacked, gets killed, so like Maxim kills that guy, the rest of the attackers just will swing randomly after that point. This is a party room floor, apparently. So we're just gonna go ahead and skip that. Oh my, is that another party room right away? This is also floor 18. The home of the fighter orcs. We fought some orcs earlier. These are kind of their big brothers. They're not super scary, but they have a chance to drop a good item. Oh, that might not be worth it though. That was really clumsy of me. Should have been able to sneak past those guys. So yeah, I don't really feel like, oh my gosh. I don't really feel like it's worth it to fight that whole room. We will fight this fighter orc down here though. If we can get in behind him. There we go. You can see there, kind of manipulating the way the enemy moves, and then moving in turn can be really helpful. You can get in first. These guys are not, they have a chance to drop an item called a power gourd. It's not like the most essential item in the game or anything like that. It's just nice. It's a replacement for the trick spell. So whoever's going to be doing multiple attacks, or that 3 power attack, 3 times power attack, not fighter orcs, don't care. So yeah, basically it gives you another option for... These mushrooms are getting really annoying. It gives you another option for powering up your guy who's going to do multiple attacks, or a 3 times power attack if you don't get the trick spell. You can see their guy and car on their second round of attacks did much more damage because that front row was gone. Okay, we don't want to run into those little winger guys, and we don't want to run into these scorpions because poison. Don't have the poison spell. We do have a few antidotes, but if they were to poison our whole party for, let's say, we might get stuck with, we might not have enough to get by. Okay, so this is the first teleporting enemy. Teleporting enemies can randomly appear pretty much anywhere in the room. But their animation for teleporting has a few different frames to it. So the trick is to take take your steps one at a time. So you might notice, whereas previously my movement was kind of smooth, like this, that I'm going to be spending a lot of time during these floors, just kind of moving one square at a time. Yeah, we're not going to fight that deadly sword, so yeah, that basically is to avoid getting accidentally back attacked. We're now on floor 21, which is the first music and tile set change. We just got the same crappy spell twice. That pisses me off to no end. But we do have a healing tile. Nice. Okay, we may actually go back up and fight that pumpkin then. We're gonna try this. See if we can kill one fast enough. I'm feeling it. Let's go. Okay. I've had bad experiences with these guys on early runs. My first few runs, or a couple of my early runs, we wiped on that. Lost the whole party on that. So I think I'm actually gonna go back and fight the pumpkins here. They have a chance to drop an item that's not great, but it's not bad. So we're just gonna go ahead and try it, because we've got the healing tile. So as long as our guys don't die, we're okay with getting hit a little. We don't have to be as efficient as normal. You can see there, Blaze just got killed. If a capsule monster does die, they automatically heal between fights. They come back every fight fully charged, and even if they die, they come back the next fight fully charged. So we want attack. The fact that Blaze died is annoying because it means he doesn't get experience for this fight. The fact that Blaze died also means that they did enough damage to kill him that wasn't directed at me, at any of the guys that I'm gonna have to then go back and heal. So that's normally a good thing. Okay, we're gonna kind of skip around here a little bit. Again, I'm still somewhat paranoid about those snake enemies. They have an attack called Sandstorm that hits your entire party for, I believe, earth elemental damage. And they can spawn up to 3 of them, so if all 3 of them do this, fairly powerful area of effect, we can be in trouble. we are trying to do these get-in first attacks against them. By the way, fire is weak to earth also, so that's one of the things here is Blaze is doing nothing because his attacks are fire element. I forgot they could call companions, that's kind of screwed up. So, they haven't used Sandstorm yet, so that's kind of okay. And we should be able to kill this one before it gets a chance. So, yeah, even if we get hit with Sandstorm right now, it's only one. Iron Mail's good. It's a pretty hardy defensive item for Guy or Dakar. For Guy. Okay. Didn't get in first here. We're gonna see how this first round goes. There's Sandstorm. If I can kill him before he gets an attack in, yep, which we should be able to do. We still don't want to fight deadly swords. They hit really hard, bluntly. Well, not bluntly because they're swords, but to put it bluntly, they hit really hard. Okay, we're gonna go back around here and just jump down to the next stairs. Golem enemies are annoying, and especially now that we're using, I mentioned the elemental thing. Blaze is fire element, so there's apparently a lot of earth element enemies right here. Ooh. That's a blue chest. That's a sky sword. It's not very good for the boss, but it's very good right now for just damage. We're actually going to equip it on Maxim, I think. And the reason we're doing that is because he's fast. So we're going to basically get this really strong attack in before the enemies get to go. We're leaving him in the back because his defense still wasn't very good. But basically, this means that we can get a... Normally we have to wait for our strong hits until after the enemy's attack. They got one less attack this fight because Maxim got to go first. You also notice it's doing tons of damage. That's because the Sky Sword is, I believe, Thunder Element, which Earth Element is weak to. So we're getting these guys in like 2 attacks now, which is much, much better. I'm much less worried about just horribly dying. Okay, and I think... Let's see, I'm gonna do a little quick poking around, but I think this is gonna be our last floor for now. We got the Sky Sword. That's really useful for right now. We got a Curse Lifter, which is actually really good, in case we ever do find that Deadly Rod. The trick with the Deadly Rod is that it does one thing when it's uncursed, and it's useful one way when it's cursed and one way when it's not cursed. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just do a quick little heal, and we will end this video for now. Let me know if you are enjoying the run. Hopefully, I felt like this was a very information dump heavy episode, so hopefully I covered everything. And post any questions you have in the comments, like, subscribe, and catch y'all later.